What's up, my name is GLoWhNo, and today I wanted to talk about what in my opinion is the creepiest Easter egg in the entire Portal series. The reason I've decided to cover this is mainly because I haven't heard anybody talk about it in a long time, so I took it upon myself to research lengthy amounts of information and tried my best to condense it into an easily digestible video. Of course, with that, I may leave out some important details, but I tried my hardest to make sure I included as much as necessary in order to paint a big enough picture but not take up too much of your time. So with that, let's get on to the video. Portal, which debuted in 2007 as a part of the Orange Box, is a game where you must traverse through many different rooms solving puzzles whilst you're being taunted by an AI known as GLaDOS. But as you progress, each puzzle becomes increasingly more complex, requiring you to think outside the box. Surely there can't be anything creepy about a puzzle game, right? Well, obviously, if that were only it, I wouldn't be making this video. Well, let's talk about Doug Ratman. Doug Ratman was a former employee of Aperture Science, a programmer who was a paranoid schizophrenic and relied on antipsychotic medication to maintain his sanity. Ratman is also one of the few survivors of GLaDOS who famously released deadly neurotoxins into the Aperture Science Enrichment Center, killing many of the scientists who worked there. Ratman was able to evade GLaDOS by hiding within different test chambers and maintenance areas around the facility. An interesting fact to mention, Ratman, shortly after everything went awry, made his way to the file room where he placed Shell, our main protagonist, at the top of the test list, with the hopes that she would be able to shut down GLaDOS, since on her file, it directly says that she should not be tested due to her stubbornness and inability to give up irregardless of the circumstances, making her the best possible subject to put his faith into. While you play through Portal, you may notice several different areas hidden away in different testing rooms, known as RATTMAN'S dens, and written on the walls are seemingly frantic and sometimes incomprehensible writings by Ratman in the hopes that Shell will see them. For example, one of the recurring messages written on the walls is "the cake is a lie," the cake being what GLaDOS promises each test subject will receive after completing said tests. Except Ratman knows there is no cake, but instead, GLaDOS sends each subject directly to an incinerator, leaving them to die. Once you reach test chamber 19, you'll finally reach the incinerator. After escaping, you'll see many more of Ratman's writings acting as a guide to get you through the facility safely. But that is where his messages stop, leaving you to continue on your own. After defeating GLaDOS, the generator that powers her implodes, shooting everything outside, including you. Shortly after, you get dragged back into the facility by a party escort bot, marking the end of Portal 1. So, GLaDOS is done for, right? Ratman can finally escape, and he can finally have his freedom. Well, according to the comics, after seeing Shell get dragged back inside, he was overcome with a feeling of guilt, and decided to return to the facility in an effort to rescue her. Upon finally finding Shell, he had realized that she was placed inside of an offline cryo chamber, since GLaDOS' explosion knocked out the entire power grid, so essentially, she would die inside. He needed to act fast, but unfortunately, in an effort to make the right call due to him taking a dose of his medication, he couldn't get the help of his companion cube, so he was shot in the leg by a turret, and shortly later passed out. After waking back up, he was in a deep state of psychosis, which in turn allowed him to hear the companion cube that he famously carries on his back to inform him that he could save Shell's life by patching her cryo chamber into the reserve grid, turning on her life support, and placing her into a stasis indefinitely. He then, still bleeding, crawls his way into a relaxation vault, and this is the last time we see Ratman, and it is completely unknown what his fate is. Now this is where things take a turn. During the entirety of Portal 1, Ratman is slowly falling into a deeper state of psychosis due to his lack of medication. But once you get to experience Portal 2, that is where you can fully see the extent of how bad it had gotten. Discovering each new den, you get a new glimpse into his mind, seeing even more incomprehensible writings and murals with little reasoning behind them. But one common theme amongst some of them are depictions of the moon. More on that later, but when you finally reach the final den, you will then see an image of Shell sleeping. Approach the wall and listen closely. What I am about to play for you are the psychotic ramblings of Doug Ratman. The file name also being ominously titled The Ghost of Ratman. After I play the audio, I will repeat it, but with captions showing what the community thinks is being said.
You're trying to waste my configuration. It's covers too. It's cloud servers. It's started. It's just started. It's done now. It's metal. It's on fuel. And all these things. It's going to stop. This is going. You're trying to waste my configuration. It's covers too. It's cloud servers. It's started. It's just started. It's done now. It's metal. It's on fuel. And all these things. It's going to stop. This is going.
Once you exit the den, if you look back up into the room that you just left, you will notice the walls quickly seal off the room, and any portals you placed in there will be inaccessible, which in my opinion is incredibly eerie considering it's almost like something did not want you to be there, and it definitely will not let you come back. But aside from that, here's one final secret that lies within Test Chamber 6. When you make it to the end of Test Chamber 6, you'll be able to press a red button that is supposed to drop a companion cube to help you progress. Instead, the first button press drops a bunch of random objects including a radio. If you successfully recover this radio and take it back to RATTMAN'S den, you will hear an ear-piercing series of frequencies that when decoded shows an image of a companion cube on the moon. Leaving it up to interpretation as to who took the picture and sent the signal. If you remember earlier, this moon image is incredibly significant since it's blatantly clear Ratman has some sort of fixation on the moon. And this isn't even the first time the moon is mentioned either. In the comics, Ratman mentions how he would rather go to the moon than help build GLaDOS. This is where there is a split. There are some people who believe that he died in that sleeping chamber he crawled into after being shot, and others think the ramblings that you hear in the final den, as well as the image of the moon, imply he is alive and well, starting his new life. But before I wrap things up, I'm going to leave you with one final thing. According to the Portal Wiki, Eric Woolpaw, a writer on Portal 2, when asked in an interview if Ratman was in fact dead, he refused to confirm or deny the question. So make of that what you will. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. Also, if I happen to leave out anything, I apologize. I wanted to keep the video as brief as possible, and I tried my best not to leave anything out, and I totally could have missed something. Irregardless, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any suggestions for any video game mysteries that you'd like me to cover, I'm always open to hearing them. See you next time.